Welcome, welcome. This is a Friday, and we are here, Tampa home.
Really? Seriously? You guys turned me down?
We didn't turn you down.
Leo Kane here with
you grabbed my microphone.
Engineering
that's
and
probably
Inspection. Here with Adam Talley from Talley Insurance, and that was Katrina.
I was right here. I left to go get coffee for a second, but I was right here.
Coffee's important. It's vital to the energy of the show.
I just had to get my
having Katrina here is also vital to the energy of the show.
Is it a little different when I'm out, gentlemen? Is that how it is?
It depends on how riled up Pat gets. That's the real, test.
What do you think, Pat? When I'm out, are the dynamics of the show way different? Just curious.
They're better.
It's more of a comedy show.
Oh, is it now? So my little jokers here turn this place into a comedy show. Is that so?
Well, you got to test out your material before you take it, on the big stage.
I see. Okay. Well, we have some regular listeners all the time. And, shout out to a couple of them. Larry usually texts us pretty regularly on our off-air number, which is
813-377-2775. That's 813-377-2775.
That's it.
Call
so
or text now.
We appreciate your feedback, as we go along in the show and you guys comment and stuff. And I actually had a new listing this week that'll be on the market in the coming weeks ahead, maybe 3-4 weeks out. That has been one of our listeners for a long, long time.
Yay.
He left his job. He was at for 20 some years, and he's selling his house. He's buying an RV, and he's traveling the whole country with his daughter.
Good for him.
Isn't that amazing? What a fun adventure.
I have a client that does that every other year or so. Him and his wife, they go out and they're 6 months, 7 months at a time. So it's certainly a lifestyle. So
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And he's been following all these people on Instagram, and they're like, okay, what's the tip? What do I do? And they basically told him once a month, go check into a hotel, spend a night or two at the hotel, spread out, kind of enjoy the amenities, and it'll change everything for you.
Enjoy not being right on top of each other for a few hours.
Here's the thing about RVing, and we will get into our market numbers here in just a minute. But the thing about RVing is it's really like a recreational hobby, and and legitimately you're not spending much time in your camper other than to cook and sleep. Yeah. You're spending all of your time outside.
Considering you can spend up to an hour to 2 hours cooking and eating and another 8 hours sleeping, that's almost half the day.
When you're sleeping, you don't even know what's going on. You're sleeping. So
I'm just saying.
I've never slept 8 hours when I've gone camping.
All right, Pat, you have a camper as well. Have you spent excessive time in your camper? Or
Absolutely not. No. You don't do that. You can't wait to put that carpeting out, sit in the chair, and sit back and just watch people walk by, but you forgot the worst part about RVing.
What's that?
It's towing to where you gotta go, and it's the setup and the tear down.
Yes, that is.
I know like that.
That is the worst part about RVing, for sure. But if, it's, I don't know. It's still an experience like no other. We did it a lot with our kids when they were young. Would definitely do it again, when we move towards retirement.
We love camping. We've never been RVing, though, so that's the next.
Yeah, it's not tent camping, so some people call that glamping, right, or whatever, but and we would joke around. There was a whole bunch of friends of ours that would go, and their camper was so nice. They had a fifth wheel, so we would joke around and say, okay, you guys are going to the Hyatt. We're going to go stay at our camper.
Well, you can
They had a washer and dryer in that thing. It was just a Mac Daddy-O camper.
There's some that are millions of dollars. It's crazy.
God.
You can spend as much money as you want on an RV these days.
I guess you could.
You just reminded me. I went camping a year and a half ago. I got to empty my black water tank. Oh, no.
Oh, Pat. All right, let's get into our numbers because I know you guys are excited. And this is kind of a general snapshot, right, of 3 counties, single-family homes. Of course, if you want a current depiction of what it looks like for you, right, in your particular neighborhood, your particular
Try
home.
to go buy a house and see how hard it is, right?
No, we'll come out there and actually, give you a pinpoint market value because sometimes, like that gentleman I met this week, very familiar with that neighborhood. I grew up in that area, and it's not uncommon for when I pull the data on comps there to be $100,000 spread.
Even between neighbors?
No, it's literally you're looking at the range of comps and the range of possible value. It's $100,000 difference. So there's no way to pinpoint what that value is without physically looking at it or doing a video tour of some sort.
So what would factor into that to have $100,000 difference between, let's say similar homes in a similar area? Obviously, they're not so similar that they're that close, but
well, here's size is a big thing, right? Like some people always say, I get this a lot.
I've seen the billboards from that law firm that it matters.
Well, here's the thing. It's got to
Pound,
we're
blah, blah,
pulling
blah.
a range of basically 20% on the square footage, right? And if Ray or Danielle was here, they may or may not have a differing opinion with me, but within 20% on the square footage, they may or may not have to adjust for the size, right? So the way they work it on the appraisal reports is they have the subject property, which is a home you're selling. They've got all the other comparables that have already sold or under contract. And depending on if those are larger or smaller, they may adjust or take away. So if it's a smaller home than the one we're selling, they may add some value to that comp to bring that bottom line number up, right? So here's the way I explain it, and I love that you brought that up, and we'll talk about why there's a $100,000 spread in a minute. But basically, he said, well, what about the house next door? It sold for blah, 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 blah. I had this literally 2 days back to back. I'm like, okay, it didn't come up in my search. I already know right away it's because of the size. Right? So I pull it up and I say, all right, let's talk about your neighbor's house and let's talk about that compared to yours. Here's your range in the square footage. The house next door is this. And so I'll say, all right, that's about an 800, 900,000, whatever square foot difference. So let's just look at the sold price per square foot, right? Which we hardly ever do.
900,000 square feet.
That's a huge house.
I'm sorry, 900. Sorry, more coffee.
1,000. Wow, that's a huge house.
No, square footage.
I can't even decorate a 3,000 square foot house.
I would love to insure the 900,000
the difference. Okay, sorry. No, so let's say our subject is 2,000 square feet and the one next door is 3,000, right? That wouldn't be something we would normally compare, but that's 1,000 square feet difference. So basically, that's what, we wouldn't use that in our search because of that, because we're looking more of a range. So if it's 2,000, we would pull more like 1,500 to 2,500. That'd be a better idea of the range in square footage. So I tell people, all right, you want to know why the home next door wasn't in my search? I'll tell you why. Here's how appraisers adjust. And let's just say, hypothetically speaking, we use that home as a comp. Let me tell you why it's bad for you, right? So then when you start explaining to them, you have 1,000 square foot difference, you're multiplying that out times $150 a square foot or whatever that sold price is per square foot. You say, okay, that's a difference in size. Let's subtract that from the value because that one's bigger than yours. That would bring your value around here. And typically that number is lower than what I've already given them. So that I really try to teach them what adjusted value is.
Fair enough. Now, question for you. Like, it seems like, do you see that a lot where you'd have 1,000 square foot difference between neighbors? I feel like that'd be
yeah,
I've seen
absolutely.
that in houses before. I mean, you got to think subdivisions. You got one story, 2 story, one story.
Yeah, but a lot of
think about South Tampa. A lot of those townhouses.
Yeah, I guess
adds on.
Are you going to compare something built in the 40s compared to a McMansion that was just torn down and rebuilt?
I mean, my house
only
is
if you're going off of land value.
You're not
Adam,
using that for
my
two
house
reasons.
is 2,800 square feet, and all the ones around me are 1 story.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, I mean, it's not even 1 story, 2 story. That's part of it. They do look at it, but that's not the whole thing. But likely, if you're 2 story, that size in Ybor City, the ones around you are probably maybe 1,200 square feet. So they're not comparable. You're going to have to go out and find a larger type, similar home, preferably 2-story bungalow.
My same street again. So there's my house. That's easily 1,000 square feet bigger than everything else. Then we have 2 houses across the street that are brand new.
And you can't compare new construction
and
to
they're
old.
500 square feet larger than the 2 houses next to them, which are 100 years old.
True.
So that's the other thing. When you start getting into areas like Seminole Heights and Ybor City, rarely do I pull based on year built. But in those areas, we're absolutely looking at the year built because you can't compare something brand new to something that was built in the 20s.
Can't do a 2017 versus a 1917, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, let's face it, Leo, it's not the same.
Yeah, the
It's just
1917 will still be there in 100 years, and the 2017 won't.
Pretty
Well,
much.
come on now. All right.
I'm being truthful.
Well,
He practices what he preaches,
we
at
just
least. So
we don't
you
compare.
gotta.
So let's talk about the numbers, and then what were we gonna say? There's a question you asked me earlier on. I didn't answer yet.
Can we do the numbers in less than a minute?
Well,
Less than a
probably. You want to do it when we come back?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess we can do. What did
Tease
you
him.
ask me? You
I
had
don't-
something
well,
that was going to answer it.
I have so many good
I
questions
got
that
off on
pop
a
through this brain.
tangent. Okay,
I
we're
don't
going
know.
to think about that. What was that question? You got to think about it so we can tell the listener what it was we were going to talk about before we leave.
Okay.
What was it? What'd you ask me?
813-377-2775. That's 813-377-2775.
All right, we will cover our market stats when we get back after the break. I know we're rolling into segment 2.
That's fine.
But our guest is late, so you
We
may have
also
us for a little while.
Tip of the week, Leo?
Yeah, so we're going to go back to a little bit more of a standard clock. So we're going to talk about this. I'm going to roll into real estate stuff a little longer.
Standard clock.
Because you know how that goes. Like our guests sometimes are late. But
Yeah, you know.
All right.
Greenwich Mean Time.
When we come back, we'll remember what that question was and we'll cover it. It'll be good. I promise. Stick around.
Welcome home.
All right, welcome home.
Welcome
this is
home.
Tampa Home Talk.
Market
Let's do
stats.
the numbers.
What is this, a pie chart? And how come the Leo 6 section of the pie chart is so small?
It's not.
It says
it's not
Leo.
proportionate.
It's like-
I have to really redraw that. Stop it. All right, listen.
Adam's sliver is larger than my sliver.
No, it's really not. It's really not.
Hey, billboard, baby. Billboard. That's all I got to tell you.
All right, so let's go over the market numbers real quick, and then I'm going to try to remember what the heck you asked me, Adam, so I can actually answer it, because I had something I wanted to say, but, maybe it wasn't important. Anyway, new listings on the market. So this week, 730 compared to last week, 794. Not many.
So we're shrinking again.
Well,
We're
it's summer.
shrinking.
We're getting out towards the end of summer, right? Do we
I
still
think
have a summer
those
pattern these
rules
days,
are
or is
sort
that
of
out the window?
a little bit right now with this crazy
With
market?
as hot and rainy it's been, we have a summer pattern.
Well, he meant like the moving migration pattern for families in school, right?
Well, a lot of people now they're virtual, and you have that Florida virtual school you can sign up for and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, I think we're going to see how interesting traffic gets when we start moving along. I know that the COVID numbers are starting to go up again.
Delta.
Which we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, sold listings 950. Boy, my numbers are off this morning. For 3 counties sold in the last 7 days, and the number of pending home sales are 1,248. That is up from last week at 1,120.
What about
So-
was it canceled contracts or whatever? How's that
So
look?
we
Because that
have-
was going on the up
There's
last
2
week.
categories. So there's expired and there are canceled. So
We don't really look at the canceled. Cancels are always like in the 20, 25 max.
Well, what did you talk about
No.
last week where you were like, oh, you can tell something's correcting a little bit because it was a negative number that was going up.
yeah, I don't know why. Really, I think it's kind of dumb that we have withdrawn and canceled in the MLS, but we do.
It might have been price reduction.
Price reduction.
Price reduction was
Price
the category.
reduction. Yeah, that was the category where we were having more price reductions.
We still are. I mean, we were 445 last week and 459 this week. I see it all the time. I looked at one particular home that I remember pulling, and all of the sold comps were low. We've seen this very, very often now. Huge spread in these active listings, like this pie in the sky number that, has, you're looking at these properties that have been on the market 60, 70 days, way overpriced. Like they're not going to sell at that price, not for a long, long while. And then you have pending home sales that are way different and higher than everything else that's sold. So that's the market trends we're seeing, that stuff is still going to go up. It's just we're seeing that very, very, very regularly every single week at this point. It just seems to. I see it at least on 2 or 3 different valuation searches that I do. I'll see where all the pendings are higher than everything sold. And even the cash buyers, like, the hedge funds and the ones that are renting the properties, they are still paying really good amounts for these properties. Because I had one that we listed, it was $275. Was the list price, and the cash buyers came up higher. Like we already had, they came up to 285 right out of the gate, and the highest sale in there was 275.
Wow.
And then when they found out I had multiple offers and some were much higher, even though they weren't all cash, they came up another 10 grand.
Nice.
And they're cash. I have no data to support that sale in that neighborhood.
Now, was it a burlap sack with an S and 2 lines through it, or was it a briefcase?
Neither. They like to, there are certain neighborhoods they like that rent really well, and so they're willing to pay a little bit more because that long-term return is just there.
So I've seen, I'm still seeing people that are buying flips and they're getting okay prices on them. I'm seeing a lot of people, and I have one particular group of, it's a client group, I would say, where they were buying, they used to buy brand new houses and rent them out annually to families, sold all of those or getting out of all of those, and then they are now buying older houses but near the beach, renting them out Airbnb, choosing to self-insure because of the premium.
I mean, well, we've talked about this,
Yeah.
right? I've talked about how there'll be more and more people that do that. And I think at some point there's got to be like a private pool of money that's not the standard insurance.
Question about self-insured. Are they getting some kind of CGL policy and then self-insuring the property?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I wouldn't
Okay, you
let
have
them.
to explain what that is. What's a CGL policy? Like, explain
Well,
to
it
the
wouldn't
short
be
listener.
CGL's commercial general liability. It's just general liability, right? So it's liability coverage over all of the properties for one entity.
So
right?
if someone slips and falls, breaks their ankle, there's still a pot of money
That's their
to sue.
biggest exposure, right? Because if say a hurricane comes and blows all of the houses down, they still own all of that land, right? So they still have that value. The chances of all of the houses being a total loss at the same time are almost zero percentage-wise.
Right.
And
It depends if they're clustered all together and we get a direct hit from something.
right, but they're also, when it's rentals like that, you're keeping up with the maintenance and everything yourself, right? So AC backs up, you're getting somebody out there same day, fixing
Right.
it, getting it done, and moving on with your life, and
What
not
are
going
the-
through the claims process.
Curious question. What are the premiums like that would choose someone to self-insure? And do you know roughly what the purchase price was like? Just to kind of gauge what that looks
Those
like.
purchase prices were,
500?
probably closer to 3. They were around 3, I would
Wow.
say.
Was this recently?
Over the past 6, 7, 8 months, something like
Okay.
that.
I mean, it depends. If you live in an older house that's wood framed, you can be looking at $5-6 grand for your premium per year.
It's-
and you don't have a
it's-
mortgage, self-insure might be the way to go.
Yeah,
well, it's
I would
not. It's
agree.
not 5 or 6 grand. What's getting them is that it ends up being 2,500 or 3,000. But if you multiply that times 10 houses, that's a lot of money going out the door every year. Plus, you have deductibles and that kind of stuff. The reason why they run into that
You have
is
to fight with the insurance company that probably won't pay right away.
well, it's not that, but the reason they're running into that is because you got to think. Okay, you have an older house. Now you're squeezing yourself into a smaller box.
So can they
Now it's a
do
rental, so you're squeezing yourself into an even smaller box. Now it's a short-term rental, so you have.
smaller insurance pool?
I have 2 options, right? I can do.
Citizens.
Nope, Citizens won't do short-term rentals.
So are
that's
they
true.
doing? They're doing. So you're saying they're doing a general liability policy on all of their properties, like
Correct.
an umbrella policy.
Umbrella would mean that there would be something underneath it. This is going from 0 to
Yeah.
$1 million.
Oh, okay.
So I can understand that. If I own like 10 rentals and I'm looking at spending $30,000 a year in homeowners insurance versus taking that $30,000 a year and putting it into a bank
invest it.
account
Yeah.
or investing it, if I don't get hit for 5 years, that's $150,000. And you're right, Adam. You're not gonna get catastrophic loss on all your properties if they're spread out.
And
Right.
right now the stock market's doing so good. Like some of these
Exactly.
have doubled in a year.
Well, I
So
mean,
theoretically, you would have doubled your money
if
in a year.
and if the premiums were different, right? So our friend over here, for example, has a few properties, right? If the property portion is under like $500, well, then obviously it makes sense to insure the property. But once it starts getting $2,500-$3,000, it's a lot,
So yeah, in those scenarios, it makes sense to not use traditional insurance. Just get
So
the
this
liability
is-
policy and save the money on the
Because
other.
liability is your biggest exposure at that point. Because
Right.
those could be hundreds of thousands of dollars if something happens.
Yeah.
So this is where really those insurance gaps, get filled in the marketplace. So if insurance companies are smart, they listen to people on what these gaps are and they create something for this. You know?
If insurance companies were smart, they would still be doing mandatory inspections at the time the policies are written, so they could document what the house looks like, and then they should be doing follow-up inspections every year. That
They
would be a
used to do-
smart.
they used to-
Follow-up
most of
inspections
them-
every year. I like that. You would see so many policies get canceled.
You know how many, Adam, you can back me on this one. How many insurance claims would be denied if the insurance company did that and they can actually document the way the house looked?
Oh, you're talking about the regular maintenance
Yeah, just
over
like
time?
okay, so wear and tear, right? Because they're not paying for wear and tear. So if you're not keeping up with your property,
That's what you asked me, and that's what I was going to say. So remember the first segment I was trying to remember what it was? You said, why would one house, like right next to it
Wear
or
and tear.
similar, have in the 20% range, have $100,000
somebody updated
spread?
it and took
Well,
care of it,
it's
and somebody still
completely
has the
updated.
90s
and
cabinets.
also
And
deferred maintenance plays a
Yeah.
huge role in that. I mean,
can
Leo,
you pass a
see
4
these.
point? Have you updated your electrical box in the past 40 years.
Challenger's a faulty panel, right?
Yeah, Challenger, Zinsco, Sylvania.
So that's
We
when
talked about double taps last week. So
when
if
I
you
look
had-
at properties, I'm looking for these things, and so I'm talking about those right away, and that's the difference between your $100,000.
Well, I saw something online where one of my I can't remember who posted it, but different types of real estate type of investing, and one of them he said, because they'll do full flips, obviously, cosmetic and anything, whatever. But one of the ones he listed, I forgot how he titled it, but it was you're basically going in there, making sure it can changing whatever you have to do to make sure it passes a 4-point and putting it back on the market, regardless of how it looks. So it can still look like crap. You'll let the next person deal with it, but you're making it available so somebody that is getting a loan could actually insure it, even though it's ugly.
Well, depending on the type of financing, too, they could have a waiting period, right? Like if it's FHA or VA, they look at that, and they want to know what you put into the house to make it worth that difference that you're trying to sell it for.
Right.
So that happens a lot, too. All right. I think our guest for this first hour is going to really be a little bit late.
Leo Kane and Adam Talley.
Wait a second. So can Adam and I's piece of the pie chart get bigger then?
I'll redraw the sucker, okay? Really? Come on now. All right, so we'll talk about a few things when we come back after the break, including some of the eviction numbers for Hillsborough County. Let's chat
that's
about
a good number.
that.
We haven't talked about that in a while.
And we're getting these regular reviews every week. We tend to get something, and I would love for one of you gentlemen to read one of our reviews.
Can I read
know
the
how to
negative
read.
one?
I think these are both good, guys.
I know how to read.
I'll take a
honestly.
4.7
Give me the small
then.
one.
We'll read them when we come
I'll
back.
take a 4.7.
And I'll tell you a little bit about the customer, which is always amazing. We love talking about our people. This is Tampa Home Talk. We'll be back in a minute. Stick around.
Oh, I'll do. Welcome home. This is Tampa Home Talk. I'm Adam Talley with Talley Insurance. We're talking all about housing prices and insurance and inspections.
All kinds of fun
and
stuff
now we have
today.
Kevin Dodge with Dodge Landscaping and Paving.
I thought we were going to talk about something else.
We
too.
are. We're going to talk
We're rearranging our hours a little
We
bit.
are. We are definitely going to be talking about how you can have a house right side by side. Is that what you want to do?
Side by side.
Where they would be different prices?
Oh, we did chat about that already.
Okay. I didn't know if that was on the air or off the air.
Yeah, it's really conditioned. That's the biggest thing. Updates, all of those sorts of things play into it. So, all right, let's read one of our reviews, shall we?
Oh, I'll go
Who
first.
wants to go first?
You want to go? I'll go first.
Here's the cool part about this that you guys did not hear when we were off the air is Leo and Adam grab one and they're like, oh, I got one. So we'll read one this hour and one the next hour. But basically, Adam's like, oh, I did the insurance for this person. I'll read it.
I actually did it for both, but we love it anyways.
And I did the inspection for both. So
No names, right?
The names, yeah.
No
Let's
names.
keep the
Okay.
names off. They're online. You can go read it if you want.
They do give two positives
do first,
to start.
Do first name. That's
First name is Donna, and the positive was professionalism and responsiveness, which we always love.
hey, that's what this person had too.
Hey, and
What?
it's-
Really?
Yeah, professionalism and responsiveness.
Wow, it's a trend.
Are they rodeo?
Oh, I
buttons, you
think they can click things.
Ah,
I think they
okay.
can click things and then leave their review.
That would make sense. Either way, very, very professional
I'm
and
glad
responsive.
they're saying the same thing.
Katrina and her team were exceptional. That's in all
Hey,
caps,
mine
by the
says
way.
the same thing.
They went above and beyond my expectations. My goal was
No,
to
it
get a
doesn't.
house, and I found the perfect one with their help. Katrina and her team work like a well-oiled machine. The whole team was very responsive and extremely helpful throughout the process. This whole experience has been a learning curve for me, moving from Minnesota to Florida, and I have felt comfortable knowing Katrina and Jen. I don't know where Jen is, but we'll bring her on one day. Would be at the home when I couldn't be. They went above and beyond for me, from picking me up from the airport. Ooh,
We did.
concierge service. I
Well-
like that. To being at the home for the inspection and work being done while I was out of state. Every interaction I had along the way was great. That means you and me as well, Leo. And there is not one thing that I would change about my entire experience. I would recommend them to everyone out there who is looking to purchase or sell a
Wow,
home.
that is a glowing review. That is so great. Well, we did pick her up from the airport. She was a very sweet lady, and talking to her, it was interesting because she was actually moved from Minnesota, or is moving from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
She literally had worked at the same job for like over 30 years. She got hit by a truck
Oh no.
and was literally like disabled, like has to have a lot of surgeries and stuff like that. And I don't, very rarely do customers ride with us anymore, but for whatever reason, I offered. I said, well, do you need a ride from the airport? Do you need us to pick you up? She says, yes.
That's
that would
awesome.
be amazing. So we picked her and her friend up. And the property she was looking at was right by where her friend's house is. So that worked out great. And basically, they were just as sweet as can be. And there was so many times that she was still in Minnesota and we would meet people, Adam, because we had things on the 4-point. The seller would, there were so many offers on that home because the pool was so great.
Well, and this particular one, she didn't mention it in the review, but I know she's really happy about it. This was when the hurricane was coming.
Yes.
And we were able to get
I
her
was
coverage
freaking out about
before
that
the
probably more than
storm.
anybody.
Even with the stuff, we got everything done.
So
which is
here's
great.
what happened. The house was really old. She had to close with open 4-point items.
Oh, is this the
that
one where
did
we had
not
to redo
pass.
the 4-point?
Yes, this is what I was freaking about. Remember?
Okay, yes, I remember.
So literally,
How could I forget?
the day she closed, literally signed the paperwork, did it. I was like, we had our people out there right away. And Jen met them, and they
that was
did
like
the
a
repairs.
Tuesday, and the hurricane was coming on
Like
a
that next
Monday,
week or
and we had to get
something,
the insurance by Friday, and we did it.
So
it was
literally,
good.
and then somehow, I was trying to figure out what the heck was going on, where the bottleneck was, because I was still waiting for it. I'm calling Leo. I'm like, Leo, where is my clear 4-point? He's like, it's not me. We're waiting on the electrician. So I'm calling the electrician, where is this? What is going on? So I call him. He's like, oh, I'm driving down from wherever. I'm like, I need this now.
Right. I think I sold
We're not waiting.
I think I sold that off of my tablet from my living room at 6:30 on a Friday. So we got,
Yeah,
we
so
got
and
it
I,
done.
of course I was freaking out because
Yeah.
at this point she is self-insuring, right? Not intentionally, but
Right.
and I was like, Adam, can't we get her anything?
We made it happen. That was fun.
Yeah. So that was good, but so these are our real customers. These are our stories, and we will share them along the way. Cool. Just no two transactions are alike, so there's
Yeah.
always something that's different that makes it pretty unique. So our next guest, he was actually supposed to be here for the 9 a.m. hour. So thank you for being early because our 8 a.m. was a little bit late. So
A little bit late. He's not even here.
I know he's not here yet, and it's 8:38. So we'll see how that
Casper.
goes down.
Is that what happens when you show up at a job?
Yes. Yeah. Well, you work with these guys as much as I do, so I'm sure you know. But Kevin Dodge, he's the owner of Dodge Landscaping and Paving. So let's chat a little bit about your business. Who are you? What do you do?
Well, I do brick pavers, and I'm Kevin Dodge originally from Vermont, and I live in Brooksville, Florida.
So you do the pool decking, you do the driveways.
I'll do anything pavers. I can. We do pool decks, with the coping. We do driveways, patios, places for grills, fire pits.
How long have you been doing it?
Almost 2 years.
Okay. What'd you do before? What's your background?
Well, before I worked at in Vermont. It was Columbia Forest Products, but I did concrete for 10, 11 years.
So still kind of in the driveway
still
business,
same
so to speak, right?
And I worked at Flagstone Pavers up here in Brooksville. And I was making $12 an hour. It was just really weren't a lot of money.
Right.
And I went and worked for a couple guys that, did pavers.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, boy, this ain't hard. So I kind of thought, well.
Yeah, I've seen those guys, man. They just lay those things out quick and they move.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually about 104 square feet per pallet.
Wow.
And they run anywhere 300 to 400 a pallet.
So what brought you to Florida from Vermont?
The cold. Get away from that cold.
Tired of shoveling snow.
But I'll tell you, when
You
it
probably-
gets 100 out there, it's hot.
You
Yeah.
probably don't have a lot of the pavers and stuff in Vermont. Do they have much of
Well,
that as we do here? Probably not.
Not because of the frost.
The frost, and
Yeah.
it's they don't spend as much time outdoors, I think, as we do.
No.
We can't half the year. You got to think about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could, but it'd be
get used to
jacket
it.
weather.
Wouldn't work out well.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
get used to it. Snowmobiling. I do miss the snowmobiling with my friends, and there's a lot of winter activities that you do that you get used to it. But when we came down here, me and my wife and my grandson, we bought a house in Brooksville, and ever since I started, it's just I made my first paycheck the first week out. The second week was just this is what I'm doing, and I started out mowing lawns. I bought a zero turn. I bought a lawnmower. I bought a weed whacker, a blower, and started doing that. And I had quite a few clients, and they really liked what I do because I don't leave clumps of grass. I always mowed it till it was just gone. And then where did I go? Into Lowe's, and this lady was talking about needing some paperwork done, but the job was so small that nobody wanted to do it, And I was like, well, what do you need? She's like, I got some papers that are loose. And I said, can't be that bad. So I looked it up on YouTube, but I was looking at what they do, and it's like, I'll do it for you,
Yeah.
So I called her up and told her and set up a time, went up there and looked, and I did the job, and it came out amazing.
Yeah.
I can say the pavers that I did at my house to the pavers I do today is like, wow.
If you like visual progress, like that's a good job that you would feel really accomplished when it's done.
Sorry, I'll let you go.
I was just going to ask how you guys fared during COVID, because I happened to be redoing my pool like right after that happened, and then pavers were on back order, and I remember the guy saying someone else was trying to like steal and overbid on my pavers that were already paid for. It's like, so talk about that.
So during COVID, I was mowing a lot of lawns, but a lot of people were out of work, and a lot of people couldn't pay, which you mow a lawn, a residential house, how long does it take? 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
And a lot of people just said, I just can't do it right now. I have to wait. And, can you come back? And I was like, well, what's the problem? Well, I got laid off, this and this. So I stepped up and I said, well, listen, it's going to take me more time to come back here in a month or whatever to fix your lawn. And, I got you, I'll cover you. It takes me 15, 20 minutes, maybe a half gallon of gas, And I carried a lot of people for 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I went out and did a few, free jobs for other people. And
Not a lot of people will do that, but I think that karma always comes back.
oh, my God, it came back triple.
So did you have issues with the pavers, like getting them as well, like after COVID?
Yeah, I did a lot of restoration, 'cause a lot of people, they got the grass growing. And a lot of installers, they just put regular sand in there. They should use a polymeric sand. It gets hard like concrete in the joint. So the weeds, it don't remove, prevent all the weeds, but it still comes.
It's better than just
Exactly,
regular
because
sand,
when
right?
it downpours, your sand's gone.
Well, the job preparation, I would think, is everything.
Exactly. We
pavers.
use crushed. I use crushed concrete, and a lot of people use crushed concrete. I buy it from Better Mix up there in Hudson, Florida, and it's so hard packed. It's like a paved road. There's no way that the weeds can grow through it. So if you're driving a car on it, it's 6 inches. They require 6 inches. If you're just doing a patio or something, 2. I like to do 3 because it gives you that nice base, and then I also lay a bed of sand. So the bed of sand gives you a nice even
Stability,
joints.
yeah.
And then my gas tamper goes over the top of it, and you can take your shoes and socks off and just walk on it. You don't feel. It's just amazing, And I learned a lot of it on YouTube.
Just looking around, you can learn everything on YouTube. I tell you
'Cause
what,
I
if
could
I
not-
was born in a later generation, I would be so savvy.
I'm
Here
surprised
I
that
am.
Leo, in all his infinite wisdom, doesn't have his own separate YouTube channel where you explain everything to everybody. Kind of like a Bill Nye,
Or
but
Leo mansplaining?
yes, a Bill Nye type show.
I mean,
our
our YouTube has 2 radio shows on it once a week. I mean,
I know, but it could be so much more.
it could be.
What do you want? Trivia, randomness?
trivia?
You got to help us lay persons out with all the tips that you have.
But that's why you're going to watch the radio shows.
We wanna
Make sure
play
you
trivia with
smash
Leo.
like or subscribe on the YouTube
That's
channel.
So, Leo, what are some of the issues that you see with the pavers when you guys do inspections and you're flagging stuff on there? What are some of the biggest challenges you see with these?
The biggest challenge is, like you said, the weeds growing up. We also see they're uneven because pavers will settle over time if you don't have a good base, which is its foundation. They'll settle. Once pavers start settling, they create trip hazards. So now you've got safety issues that pop up. So these are all the things that can pop up from bad installs. And then it's where the people's minds go when they see these things. They're
Number
thinking
one-
sinkholes and other issues, trees, uprooting. They think all these bad things when it's just a bad install.
So a lot of people that install, I'm not saying nothing bad, but one of the things that I thought about is it's like a paved road. So you got a shoulder. The shoulder's there for a reason, right, to support your edge.
Right.
So I always bring my crush 6 inches past my paver. And I've been in, like I said, almost 2 years, and I've never gone back on anything. My biggest repairs are the edges of people's driveways and patios because they fall because
people
there's
hit
nothing
it.
there.
Yeah.
So, you put weight on the edge and it pushes out, it drops down.
Yeah.
And so I build mine out and build it up so it don't
Well,
do that.
this is Tampa Home Talk. We have to roll to a break. We're here with Kevin Dodge, the owner of Dodge Landscaping and Paving. We'll be back in a moment. We'll give you our number.
This is Tampa Home Talk. We've hit our final segment for the first hour. We believe we have a guest in studio, guest on the phone,
We
guest,
do.
and three hosts.
That little music is because Sarah Cricky is with us with the mortgage firm, and she's going to give us a little Mortgage Minute update.
Good morning.
How's it going?
It's great. Happy Friday.
We made it.
In today's Mortgage Minute, just to kind of talk about borrower preparedness in terms of pre-qualifying for a home loan when shopping for real estate. We at the mortgage firm want our borrowers to be really confident when shopping for a home and well prepared. So some tips for buyers that are looking at purchasing real estate are to kind of get their ducks in a row up front, select the loan officer they want to work with, fully disclose their personal situation, supply up front their asset and income documents so that they can be reviewed in advance, talk about what their comfort level is in a home loan payment, and what that backs into in the form of a purchase price from one loan program to the next, so that when they're out with you, Katrina, shopping for real estate, they are looking within their means, and they can buy with confidence and be aggressive with their offer for an expedited closing.
I'll tell you what, in this market, they don't have an option other than to be all the way ready to go because everything's moving so fast. There's just no option to wait and do it like after you see the home. It cracks me up still that I'll get calls on my listings and people want us to just Pop-Tart and run out there with no proof of funds, no approval, nothing.
And you're like, nah.
We get that often.
We do that. That's what an open house is for.
And we get that a lot on our end. Someone standing in a property wanting to make an offer, and we're just getting their application for the first time. So preparing in advance is key. Not to mention that once we have a full credit package, we've done our internal verifications, it's going to enable them to make a more aggressive offer, maybe for a faster closing or something that might give them that edge to win that offer.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's crucial. Like in this market, like I can't say it enough, but cash is more than king. Like right now, a lot of times cash are the only ones that are getting looked at. In a normal
crazy.
market, you might get 2, 3, 4 offers, and maybe one of them's cash, which is always lower. And in this market, like you're getting multiple offers with cash above the list price. So,
Right.
it matters. You got to have everything in a row.
Right, and there might be a little problem we have to solve up front, things that we want to take care of in advance. So again, once the buyer is under contract, they can relax. It's smooth sailing. They can focus on packing and the excitement of buying a new home rather than worrying about the loan process because we've got that under control.
Well, one of the things I want to comment on is, we'll see oftentimes that people don't disclose or talk about little things that will always come up. I promise your lender will know everything about you before it is done. They pull all these internal reports. There's nothing that, even if you think you're not intentionally hiding something, right? Like so, for example, timeshare, right? People don't think about that. It's an expense. Mm-hmm. You have to count that against some of the debt ratios.
So some of the things that people just kind of glaze over and don't think that we have to look at that I've encountered as of late, tax liabilities. Maybe you have a small balance due with the IRS. We have to resolve those, pay those, show proof of a payment plan. And if clients don't realize that's going to be necessary and or don't have the funds to take care of that bill, the IRS is a little cumbersome to work with right now, and we spend a lot of time trying to get that, taken care of.
Well, it's not a quick process, and if you're trying to do that when you're under contract, that may not bode well.
No, and then, another thing that we kind of run into is, maybe we'll have a client that's a W-2 employee for a company, but maybe they have a little side business, and they didn't really think it was necessary for consideration, but we run into those things on the tax returns, and we absolutely have to address it. So,
Not to mention the bank statements, right, where people make these random large deposits, which have to be justified.
Yeah, we like to get through all of that red tape up front so that we're all on the same page and we've resolved any potential issues. Again, so it's a stress-free process once the buyer is under contract.
I have a question for you, especially as you're doing your due diligence. Have you ever run into an issue where somebody has a lot of, say, funds coming in from something like Venmo where you can't really trace where it's coming from and you can't really identify if that's a legitimate or illegal activity coming in?
So we definitely deal with that. It's super popular now. We deal with those types of deposits all the time. In a lot of the scenarios, it's actually a self-employed person, and that's the way they like to receive their form of payment. So we're documenting those deposits for that type of individual with invoices and receipts and whatnot.
That is a fun transaction for your mortgage person, I'm just saying.
It's no fun when you have 27 in one bank statement. I get it, but then, and then we'll have things like, even me personally, I'll send my kids money or vice versa, So we'll have a random transaction here and there, and if we can't really prove the source of that, then we just back it out of the balance and we don't count it toward any potential cash to close.
That makes sense.
We definitely have to document with a lot of explanation letters and support and source those types of deposits the best that we possibly can.
Yeah, it's. I would not want to be the mortgage person on the other end of explaining all those Venmos and PayPals. I don't think people realize how much work goes into that, but I do. I used to do that job. That is not
A
fun.
lot of self-employed folks, though, do legitimately use Cash App, Venmo,
Yeah.
Zelle, those types of things for a form of payment. And, we recognize that and we don't hold it against them as long as we can properly document. So it's different from one individual to the next, but we absolutely do have to address it.
Is there one platform that's easier than the other for you to be able to track if we have somebody listening that is a
Cash
self-employed
receiver?
person? Okay.
No, not really. A lot of times when we see these types of entries go into a bank statement, it'll actually reference the sender, for example, as a part of the transaction in that particular line item. And normally, for example, if it's someone self-employed, then they'll supply the invoice that supports that person's bill, for example, or why they received any form of payment from them. Sometimes it's family members. Sometimes it's I lent my friend money and they paid me back. I mean, it's different for everyone.
But you got to explain it all.
Not any better platform than another.
All right, Sarah Cricky with the mortgage firm. We are out of time already.
Wow.
Instead of 2 minutes,
That
that
was
was like
quick.
8, but that was a great tip of the week. And thank you. We're going to wrap it up also with Mr. Kevin Dodge. He's the owner of Dodge Landscaping and Paving. If you want to get connected with him, just call or text our off-air number to 813-377-2775. Again, just call or text 813-377-2775, and we'll get you connected. If you're looking for an estimate for those beautiful pavers out back, let's make that outdoor living space amazing. Stick around. We'll be back for hour number 2 in just a moment.